Let's talk about my number one pick for the remainder of 2021. Hello there everyone. Today I want to share a project with you that solves a problem that only a small percentage of everyone in the world knows. So they solve a problem that only a small percentage of the world knows. Why? Because it's a very complicated project. So basically, the project I'm talking about is RUNE, and this is my number one pick for the remainder of 2021 and for the remainder probably in quarter 1 of 2022 as well. So let's talk a little bit about blockchains. So we all know that by now, perhaps, a blockchain is a chain of computers basically organizing themselves as a network, and because you have many computers in a network, you will have a very secure chain. So this is just a bird's eye view of a blockchain, right? Okay, now we know that there are various different blockchains, right? We know that there's Ethereum, we know that there's Polkadot, we know that there is Phantom. Basically, all these different kind of blockchains are all popping up. And what's happening? Well, the same projects we see on all chains, they get copied on many different other chains. So we know that, for example, Uniswap on Ethereum has then been pushed to a different chain, and they called it PancakeSwap, right? Let's say this is a different chain, this is a different chain, this is Cake, okay, PancakeSwap. All right, so now we have two different decentralized exchanges on different chains. Now, what is the problem here? Well, basically, if you have many different chains and many different swap websites, and you have your centralized exchanges as well, the problem becomes liquidity. Now, what is liquidity? Basically, the amount of assets that are available to be swapped at any given time. So the better the liquidity, the lesser your price impact will be when you try to make a trade. So basically, if you have very low liquidity, some people may have experiences with the shitcoins, for example, then if you make a trade, your impact on the price of a token is huge. And then you have something called slippage. So many different chains with many different swap websites will give very thin liquidity. Now, as we expand, as more people are going to the Cardano ecosystem, to the Ethereum ecosystem, there are many other solutions out there. Liquidity becomes thinner and thinner because on every decentralized exchange, on every single blockchain, we will need liquidity to facilitate our trades. Now, how can we solve this problem? Well, basically, if you created a system that will connect with all the different exchanges and pull all that liquidity from all these different blockchains towards itself, making a cross-chain decentralized exchange, then that would solve the problem. And that is what RUNE does. So let's take a look at RUNE and let's take a look at RUNE's tokenomics. So basically, we have a project that aims to solve the biggest problem, in my opinion, in blockchain world right now, which is the liquidity when you start to expand cross-chain. Now, we can only, in my opinion, move to a future where this is made easy. Yeah, we have to make it easy for other people to use multiple chains, to swap through multiple chains, and to have their native assets. So normally, what we did is when you swap something, let's say you want to swap Ethereum on the Phantom blockchain, you will have FE, basically a bounded asset that says, okay, we're going to wrap this asset right here, and then we will package it, basically, and then you cannot remove the wrapper, but you have a synthetic version of Ethereum. So it's not the real version of Ethereum that you would be swapping on the Phantom blockchain, for example. So now, what RUNE aims to do is connect all these different blockchains together and use their native assets and then swap those native assets for the other native assets. So that – basically, this allows them to have a 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 – basically, this al huge advantage on every other single exchange, because if you are able to pool all the liquidity together, then you will have a perfect working swap website. So now let's look a little bit at Rune's tokenomics, all right? Because I think the tokenomics on this project are just completely brilliant. So in here it says there are 5 distinct superpowers: liquidity, security, governance, incentives, and amplifier. Okay, so now let's have a look right here. So in order to solve the liquidity issues, we have assets being paired against RUNE. RUNE is the base currency and it's required to be provided alongside every asset in the pools. So if you remember the pancake swap or the Uniswap example, yeah, let's say you will have BTC and you have ETH and you want to swap them for each other, right? You will have one designated pool with BTC and ETH, and then basically if you want to swap BTC against ETH, you will have to have this specific pool. Now, if I want to swap BTC with, I don't know, BNB, then I will need another pool for BNB and BTC. Now, for every single pair, every single coin you want to trade against another coin, you will need a specific pair. Now, that makes it almost impossible to have great liquidity, because you will have so many different pairs and so many different liquidity pools that all your liquidity is being spread over so many different pools that you will just have a liquidity nightmare. So now, Rune aims to solve this by pairing each different asset with Rune. Now, because they pair every single asset with Rune, you can see here, if Thorchain supported 1,000 chains, it would only need 1,000 pools. A competitor would need around 500,000 pools. Now, you can imagine that it is a lot easier to provide good liquidity or have enough assets to support 1,000 pools instead of 500,000 pools, because you would be using the same amount of assets. You either spread them over 500,000 different pools or over only 1,000 pools. So here's the thing, illiquid pools are the enemy that Rune is fighting. So now, how does it work further? So in here, it says liquidity as a settlement asset. So basically, what it is doing is it's bonding assets towards the Rune token in their liquidity pools. So then, in order to secure great liquidity and in order to have the security in the pools, basically what they're trying to do is they want to always have 3 times as much Rune as there is the asset in the pool. So that means that more assets would be coming to the Thorchain network, then it means that the price of Rune automatically has to rise because more assets come in, and we need to provide those 3 times the value of the assets in there. So this is a very, very interesting tokenomic part, basically, yeah. Because we know now that Rune, there will always be more Rune in the exchange than there will be assets in the exchange. So now, if we take a look forward, right? This is basically the node structure. You can read this if you want, but I'm just trying to get the gist of it right here. So basically, the maximum incentive that they give to their liquidity providers is when there is 67% Rune and 33% of another asset in their pools, right? Now, this basically means that the owners of the pool are never incentivized to take away that liquidity, because it will give them more loss than it will give them a gain. But that's basically the mechanic that they're working with right here. So because they use Rune as the pairing asset, this also means that you are very, very easily entering and exiting positions, because Rune is the settlement asset. So basically you are paying Rune, you are trading against Rune, and you're basically using Rune in every single transaction on that chain and on the exchange. So now, if we take a look forward, and this is one of my favorite mechanics within the entire network. So basically, what happens is as more assets enter the network, basically, okay, you have the huge amount of swaps happening on the network, and then you will have a transaction fee on the network, and basically there's a dynamic slip-based fee as well. So there are lots of different benefits to the RUNE token, but the real thing that I want to really shine my light on right here is that look right here, when 80% of RUNE gets locked into Thorchain pools, by design of the network, because you need to have an over-collateralization of RUNE in the network, that means that RUNE's market cap has to be at least 3 times the value of all the assets that are in the chain. So basically, they can only facilitate a certain amount of assets, and otherwise the price of RUNE has to be so high that the market cap of RUNE will be minimum 3 times the amount of value that all the assets are locked into the chain. So for me, this gives me a significant advantage, right? Because if I look at something like this, it can be quite complicated. So because it is complicated and because it's not hard to understand this problem, not a lot of people will know about this issue. The only thing that people know is that the chain has got hacked before, and that's the only thought that's still in their mind, right? They got hacked for a small amount, they more than covered it, basically reimbursed everyone that got caught in the hack. They put in a new white hat hacking program where basically people are incentivized to hack and abuse the platform, and then if they find a bug, then they get an incentive for it. So by my standards, the hack has only made the network any stronger because they now have new implementations, new security measures, and they're trying to improve the network even further. So if we want to solve the problem of cross-chain liquidity, and if we want to solve the general liquidity problem that's happening in the crypto space right now as we speak, then I think RUNE is one of the best solutions to solve that problem. Now, we now see that if the network becomes online, and that's why I'm so bullish on it this quarter, because they say that the network is going to be online again this October, then if the network becomes back online, a huge liquidity vortex will be created and people want to be swapping assets on this chain because there's almost no slippage, there's great liquidity, and there are huge incentives to put your assets in there. So basically, for me, this creates a perfect storm, and that's why RUNE is my #1 pick for this quarter. I hope that I explained myself thoroughly. It's a complicated issue to grasp, but I think that if you research a little bit more, that you will share my vision maybe a little bit. All right, thank you everyone for watching. If you like more videos like this, please press the subscribe button, like this video, and send me a comment of any suggestions of coins that we want to seeing. And I will see you all in the next one.